politicize something as long as there's like a good outcome. Like, politicizing something should mean we're working towards a just outcome to the shit thing that just happened.
Right.
And I don't care if that's 5 minutes later. Right, exactly. And I don't care if that's 5 minutes later or if it's fucking weeks later or whatever. Like, let's quickly figure out how to have a more just outcome for the fucking shitty thing that just happened.
And it's not disrespectful to the victim. That's the argument. So it's disrespectful to the victims. You know what? I don't think the victims care if somebody across the country is praying for them. If the doctor who's tending to their wounds is like, well, what kind of policy should we pass? That's disrespectful.
Right.
Everybody else can think, okay, how can we prevent this? Like you said, policy matters. Like this is what politics is about.
It's supposed to be about.
Right.
And so what are your thoughts on this, on the Diversary program? About these calls to end it. He also threw Chuck Schumer under the bus, saying that Chuck, this was his beauty or something.
Didn't Chuck Schumer try to end the program, but he was stopped by the GOP
so
Congress?
Chuck was part of bringing it into being 27 years ago. And then in 2009, okay, so 27 years ago, Chuck was a part of it. But then in 2009, he actually tried to get rid of it in a Senate bill with a part of the Gang of Eight, right? Where, he was going to get rid of that and they were going to reform immigration and everyone was super into it except for nothing happened.
Right. Well, but if you say Chuck Schumer, diversity, and Muslim, it's like Nazi bingo. It's like three in a row. You get all that you want. Like that. This is a blessing for Trump. Was probably so excited.
He was probably so excited. This represents a diversion, represents red meat he can throw at his base, represents all of the sort of the dog whistles that aren't even dog whistles anymore. They're just blatantly thrown out there by him directly towards his base, talking about Guantanamo and then talking about the death penalty, tweeting about the death penalty. It is extremely concerning that the commander-in-chief, that the president of the United States is talking about subverting due process like this. I mean, shocker, it's not the first time, but once again, just because we are inured to it, just because we are used to it, just because it's like, oh, it's Trump, it doesn't mean it is any less serious. It is what an authoritarian does.
Yeah, and for listeners who might not know, he tweeted that this person should get the death penalty, which does in fact interfere with the actual justice system doing their thing, because then, defense lawyers can say there's no way he can get a fair trial because
he's been attacking the justice system, for his entire life.
Oh, he called the justice system a laughing stock and a total joke or whatever.
It's about discrediting any sort of authority that might hold him to account for his actions, whether it's the media, whether it's the justice system, whether it's Congress. I mean, his justice system, he's destroying from the inside and the out by ridiculing it, by putting people like Neil Gorsuch in there, by just undermining everything.
I managed to forget all about him.
But that's the thing. There's so many terrible things.
There's so many terrible
I remember
things.
when Bush was president, a comedian friend of mine, Barry Weintraub, you may know he had a thing about Surus of terror. So it was something basic, but it felt like it was a constant shitstorm of terrible things, so you couldn't keep up. And W. Bush's administration looks like slowpoke majoke compared to Trump. It's like that. Someone prints or tweets out every week, like, keep a list of things.
It's Amy Siskind.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And it's just non-stop. You forget about Neil.
It is an onslaught against democratic norms.
Right. You forget about, before we went on air, you talked about how you hadn't thought about Ivanka in a while, but Ivanka and Kushner's role in this administration is like a horrible thing. Each individual thing on its own would have totally ruined a real administration.
Well, actually, what I said was I hadn't really heard about Ivanka in a while. I actually just went to check her Twitter feed today because I was like, I wonder what Ivanka is saying about any of this. And it was just the same serene parade of tweets about how she's helping women and looking pretty. I mean, it's her Twitter. It's evergreen. Her Twitter account could exist in any time frame.
Yeah. So what's going to happen now?
Progress in the sense that we're not working on other issues besides preventing Armageddon.
Right.
And that's that in itself is quite an accomplishment for an agenda that wants to pursue Armageddon. Is that we're not progressing, we're not spending our energy. People have, especially people with real jobs and real lives, have a limited amount of energy to work to make this country a better place.
It's not just energy, it's bandwidth and it's resources. Most people don't have the luxury of refreshing Twitter every 2 seconds. I mean, we forget because that's our industry that we're in, it's our job to continue to be up on the news. But there are so many people who do not have that luxury, and
they look for what comes across Fox News or what comes across their phone, which, as we're learning, I mean, that's what they took advantage of, is people don't have time to vet every news source.
But going back to this justice system thing, like, what is the end game of totally shitting on the justice system in their dealings with terror? Because at the end of the day, like, in a lot of terrorist plots, like, the actual person gets shot. They don't make it out alive. This is a rare instance in which the person is alive. The New York Times actually went through a list of all of the incidents since 2001, and there's a few where we have this live terror suspect, and then how long it took, like the Boston bombings.
Still in Roof on the list. Obviously not considered. See, this is
that's fucked up.
As a white man, I'm terrified of white men. I don't say that as a joke.
As you should be. Yeah. So it's a very easy juxtaposition between Trump's response to an attack that killed 8 people in New York and Trump's complete non-response to a white man who walked into a Walmart in Denver and opened fire and killed 3 people there.
Or plotted and carried bags of armed weapons up 30 whatever floors in Las Vegas. Like even more plotted. I mean, that's even more terrible. And
that, to me, it's like, if you want to use words like laughing stock and joke, you would use it in America's inability to deal with the gun problem is a laughing stock and a joke on an international scale. Like, it's so embarrassing, and
I would just never use those words at all in any of these circumstances. I mean, let's not forget that we are dealing with a person who has wildly inappropriate reactions to basic human situations. Yeah. We saw that with his total inability to do, like, one of the most basic things that a commander-in-chief does, which is offer comfort to military families. Yeah. I mean, he completely botched that, and it's not a question of, I'm sure he wasn't kicking himself and saying, gee, I wish I had been more empathetic. I'm sorry I upset this war widow.
That's exactly what's happening here in the aftermath of a terrorist attack, which should, have some measure of solemnity and some measure of, unifying the country. His first thing that he did was to attack Chuck Schumer, and it's like, what are you talking about? So anyways, got to move on, but I think the 3 of us can agree that this is being handled really horribly. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back shortly to talk about indictments. For quick, easy, and nourishing food, join Saffron Road on the journey to better and choose from their halal-certified, authentic frozen entrees, deliciously healthy snacks, or meal-in-a-minute simmer sauces. I can totally attest to the many things that they have because they sent me 5 giant boxes of Saffron Road product. Not complaining, and the Earwolf staff is still literally eating the many, many, many multitudinous forms of chickpeas and bean stocks and other types of things that are not potato chips because they have more protein, they're more healthy for you. We've been swimming in this stuff, and it's delicious. I'm not going to lie, guys. Saffron Road products are typically available in the natural and organic section at Whole Foods Market, Kroger, Publix, Albertsons, Safeway, and other major supermarkets. To learn more about Saffron Road and get a coupon to begin the journey to better, please visit saffronroad.com/fake and experience all the world has to offer. You guys, I promise you'll find it delicious. So, saffronroad.com/fake.
Maybe.
For those of you who know kids with curious, creative minds, the toy for your young inventor has arrived, and it's big news in the Star Wars galaxy. With Littlebit's Droid Inventor Kit, kids can make their own R2 unit or invent a custom droid of their very own. We talked with Littlebit's founder, Aya Badir, to learn more.
For us, it's important enough to kind of get kids excited and interested, get them playing with each other, get them playing with their parents, get them proud to show what they made. It's a really powerful thing when a kid makes something and is proud to show it. We see them doing that with paper mache or drawing, but very, seldom do you see them doing it with technology. So it's really nice to see that.
Get kids their personalized piece of the Star Wars galaxy with the Littlebits Droid Inventor Kit at littlebits.com and Walmart and Amazon and Apple. And again, that's Littlebits Droid Inventor Kit. It is super, super cool, and I say that as an adult who yearns to have been a child with a Littlebits Droid Inventor Kit. Go to littlebits.com and Walmart, Amazon, and Apple. And we are back with topic number 2. Indictments, you guys. Monday saw a flurry of indictments handed out by Robert Santa Claus Mueller. Chief among them was an indictment of Paul Manafort, Donnie's one-time campaign manager and buddy. I'm pretty sure they slept head to toe in a Moscow hotel room during spring break once. Anyhow, it turns out that Paul was Manaforting a bunch of money from foreign sources into the United States and not paying taxes on it. Manaforting is my new term for money laundering. Thank you. First, let's talk about this indictment. And his associate was also indicted, Rick Gates. What did these indictments tell you?
That Bob Mueller has a nice little machine going and that he's ready. That's what it tells. I mean, that's, by all accounts, that seems to be the general impression, that this is a tight set of indictments and that it is certainly meant to both sort of transmit to Manafort and Gates that they have the goods on them, from all the millions of dollars in carpet and landscaping fees that they've really gone through forensically, and they have the goods. But that also that if they cooperate, I mean that's the goal, right? Is the goal to figure out what's happening with Russia, and do these people have information, and could that be useful? And is the prospect of jail time sufficiently incentivizing to get them to cooperate?
I mean, it's also really funny to me because the juicy parts of the indictment were in fact the millions of dollars of rugs and the apartment in Carroll Gardens and the other apartment in Soho and millions of dollars that he spent on these things and paid for them outright, no mortgage. And these are the things that I'm did you not watch Goodfellas? They tell you in every mob movie, don't lavishly spend because everyone will figure out that you have money that you shouldn't have. And everyone will figure out that you're tax evading or whatever. So because what they've been able to do historically with the mob and, as a Manaforter, Paul is very much, functions like a mobster. What they were able to do with the mob was always catch them on these charges, on these financial charges, not actually the criminal activity that they were doing, right? Because that was always harder to prove. So it's just funny to me that he was so sloppy at the end of the day about all of this stuff and about his expenditures.
But it shouldn't be funny because if you look at Trump, which is sort of his patron in a way, he's always just gotten away with everything, right? Anytime he's caught, he countersues, he just bullies his way through stuff.
Right.
So they've never dealt with anybody that they can't sort of bully and pass. And this is a guy, and I agree with you, the assessment Mueller is up to the job. He's just treating this professionally. He's not bothered by the noise. And he sort of feels like he's calmly approached Trump or a metaphor for Trump and put his hand on his throat, not choked him, but sort of put his thumb right under his Adam's apple and said, I can choke you in an instant. And they said, this is serious. And it's when you push someone against the wall and you're ready and you're not backing down from his bluster. And it's nice in this era when so many people, particularly with Trump, you look back at the Republican debates, people just were cowed by his mannerisms and his personality, that Bob Mueller is just no, there's a way things are done.
I actually think that's a really interesting irony, is that for the entirety of the campaign, especially during the debates, you would look at Hillary Clinton. She was by the book. She knew her stuff. Mm-hmm. She had the information. She won in terms of actual facts and arguments.
And votes.
But the bluster overtook her. But in this case, we're looking. Bob Mueller is essentially Hillary-esque in his methodical marshaling of information, putting together files, getting it all together. I'm not even sure Manafort was particularly sloppy per se. He just
or maybe Mueller was really good at figuring.
When you have a team of the best professionals in the business who are tasked to find it, and you're dealing with a shady individual, then you're probably going to find something. But Manafort, query how sloppy he was if he was able to last for this long in out in the open with these associations, and this the only time he was held to account for it was because he happened to be the campaign manager for a person who won the presidency under a cloud of Russian interference and potential collusion with a hostile foreign power. That's a high bar.
I like what you said about comparing.
I think you should pitch that as a movie.
It would never